Chapter 761. This father is very doting on his son. Gu Jingze did not expect Gu Xinian to suddenly say that. He froze and then said to Gu Xinian, "Of course I can." He bent down and scooped up Gu Xinian easily. Although he was not petite, he was not a chubby child either. He was light and was almost weightless to Gu Jingze. As he carried Gu Xinian, his son even hung his arms around Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze looked at this adorable son and seemed to enjoy this moment. Meanwhile, in the distance, Yun Luo watched Gu Jingze carry a child as he walked. She could tell that this child was Gu Jingze's son, Gu Xinian. Yun Luo was rather surprised to see the child here. Her steps slowed down when she saw that Gu Jingze already noticed her. She brightened up and said as she looked at that child, "Jingze, this is." In Gu Jingze's arms, Gu Xinian looked up and stared straight at Yun Luo. Gu Jingze said, "You're here. Is something the matter?" Yun Luo never knew how a man could look so good carrying a child. Gu Jingze always seemed so aloof to her. There was no warmth to him at all. It didn't matter to her anyway. A man who focuses more on career than on family was the standard of a successful man. However, she saw that Gu Jingze was actually carrying a child like this. Furthermore, this image of him gave her a kind of warmth. He looked a lot more human. With a father like that, one would definitely be the object of envy anywhere. Yun Luo was only surprised. Was he a man who loved children? Wasn't it said that he never liked children and that was why he sent the child to America and never brought him back? How was he carrying his own son like this today and being extremely doting on him? Yun Luo said, I just wanted to ask you out for a meal if you have not eaten." Gu Jingze already replied, "Sorry, I don't have time today." Oh, of course. She looked at Gu Xinian and beamed. "You must be Xinian. Hello, I'm Yun Luo. You can call me Auntie Yun Luo." Gu Xinian looked at Yun Luo and asked plainly, "Who are you?" Seeing that he was talking directly to her, Yun Luo smiled even more. "I'm Yun Luo, your dad's friend." "Oh, I thought you were dad's girlfriend here." Yun Luo blushed at the sound of girlfriend. However, Gu Xinian suddenly said, "But I also thought that my dad's taste shouldn't be this bad." Yun Luo's smile froze on her face. She looked at him strangely. What did he mean? Gu Xinian innocently blinked and said, "She's not as pretty as my mom and her figure is not as great." "Right, Dad." Gu Xinian looked at Gu Jingze, expecting a reply. Yun Luo looked at Gu Xinian in surprise. Gu Xinian was too rude. She thought that Gu Jingze definitely would not allow him to be this rude. In her eyes, Gu Jingze was a nitpicking and extremely demanding man. He had very high expectations for his subordinates. Needless to say, he must have been very strict about educating his own son. However, Gu Jingze looked at Gu Xinian speechlessly. He intentionally straightened his face, but anybody could tell that this straight face was especially fake. "Xinian, don't be so rude," he said airily. Gu Xinian replied, "How am I rude? Dad, Mama told me that I must always be an honest person. I'm only saying what I feel. Why, did I say something wrong? You don't think Mama is pretty?" Gu Jingze looked helplessly at this child. There was a hint of reprimand in his eyes, but it was soft and not harsh. He compromised and thought that if this little rabbit went home to tell his mother, that would not be good. He was determined that he did not dare to say it. Lin Che was still explosive now. Gu Jingze replied, "Yes, you're right. Will that do?" Hearing him say that, Gu Xinian smiled satisfactorily. Gu Jingze looked up and wanted to talk to Yun Luo. However, Gu Xinian immediately became a whiny child as he said to Gu Jingze, "Okay, Daddy, let's go. I want to leave. Mama definitely won't like you talking to strange women. She will get mad if you do this. Let's go." It was normal for a 3-year-old to be so mischievous and unreasonable. However, for this to happen to Gu Xinian really did not seem normal at all. Gu Xinian's mentality was not that of a 3-year-old. How could he suddenly become a whiny child? There could only be one explanation. He was doing it on purpose. Gu Jingze knew, but he could only look at him and say helplessly, okay, let's go. He carried Gu Xinian on one arm, nodded at Yun Luo, and walked out. Yun Luo stood there as she watched Gu Jingze carry the child and walk away quickly without turning back. Her tears were about to fall. How could Gu Jingze? The Gu Jingze in her eyes should have been a cold-blooded man. How could he desert his own principles just because of one child? How could he listen to a child's demands and even let the child kick up a fuss with him? Was this Gu Jingze? Yun Luo never expected that Gu Jingze would actually change so easily for a whiny child. She stood there and felt really angry. However, she could not be calculative with a 3-year-old child. It wasn't a woman by Gu Jingze's side. It was his own flesh and blood. No matter what, she would be at a loss. Meanwhile, the people around them saw this scene and were already shocked. Especially the employees. They saw their CEO treat his son so well. In their hearts, they already added one more person they could not offend. That was the young master. Gu Jingze was too doting on his child. Because of his child, he could not even care about the lady from the Yun family. They used to think that Gu Jingze was quite good to Miss Yun. Now, they saw that Gu Jingze still loved his child more. However, it also made sense. Gu Jingze totally did not need to look at the Yun family and he didn't need to give them face. They used to wonder if he harbored any interest for Miss Yun because he was so nice to her. Now, it looked like he didn't have this intention. He still cared about the child and that meant that he cared about the child's mother too. Miss Yun could not compare at all. Because a child, he chose not to care about the Yun family's power. How did it feel to be this doted on? Chapter 762, Gu Jingze, are you here to sell your body? Gu Jingze placed Gu Xinian in the car. Gu Xinian sat in his seat with his 2 small drooping legs. He was no longer childish and naive like how he was a moment ago. He sat still in his seat with his eyes fixed in front. Qin Hao was still with them. In his heart, he was very impressed. He turned around to look at Miss Yun Luo's expression, her face totally darkened. This kid was too mean. How could he provoke her in such a manner, especially when she had congenital heart disease? However, taking another glance at Gu Jingze, he was looking down at Gu Xinian and did not seem to be bothered by it. Shaking his head slightly, Gu Jingze laughed and gestured for the chauffeur to drive. Lin Che arrived at their new apartment. She looked around the house and it was huge enough for them to live in. It was well equipped with the daily items. Gu Jingze had also told people to send some things over and a few servants came over as well. They even brought Prince along to the new house. Lin Che stared at the servants with a speechless look. Why are all of you here? A servant replied, Sir told us to come and take care of the young master. Madam, you need someone here to manage the house as well. Don't chase us away. Although she was determined to not be swayed by Gu Jingze, she still had a soft heart for these servants. So in the end, she simply gestured and said, all right, up to you all. However, what she could not tolerate was Gu Jingze's car quickly arrived outside the apartment. After Gu Jingze brought Gu Xinian into the house, he sat on the sofa and did not move anymore. Lin Che did not wait for Gu Jingze to enter the house before she hurriedly hid in the room on the 2nd story. However, she realized that Gu Jingze was not planning to leave after he sat down. She waited for half a day but she couldn't take it any longer when she saw that Gu Jingze treated that place like his house. He leaned back on the sofa and began to watch the television. She was so angry that she headed downstairs. Gu Jingze, it's very late. Don't you think you should leave soon? Lin Che maintained a smile while talking to him. Gu Jingze grinned when he heard that she finally came down. He stood up slowly and turned around. His clear eyes landed on her angry face. Yes, it's too late. It might be a little too dangerous to be driving at this hour. He looked around and said plainly, there are still many rooms around. I will stay here tonight. His voice was very determined and he was not seeking her opinion at all. Lin Che was even angrier. This Gu Jingze spoke as if that was his house. Fine, although he bought it with his money, the name written was only hers. That property belonged to her alone. At that moment, Lin Che walked down the stairs. Looking at Gu Jingze, she said, we have agreed on this. How can you change your mind so suddenly? Gu Jingze narrowed his eyes. What do you mean by changing your mind? This is my house. Yes, I know that. And you still say that you want to move in as if this is your house. Lin Che was shocked at his self-righteous expression. Gu Jingze raised his brow and said, no, I did not. I'm pleading with you. I just need to stay here for a night. On the account that I have taken Xinian around to play for the entire day, you should allow me to stay for a night, right? What did he mean by should? She did not want him to stay. What if I say I don't want you here? Lin Che said. Gu Jingze looked at her and walked towards her slowly. He went up closer to her and asked, what's wrong? Or are you worried that I might do something while I'm here? Lin Che was worried that he would go overboard. However, his gaze seemed to have seen through her. It made Lin Che a little angry and she refused to admit it. Why would I? What can you possibly do? Nianian is still around. I believe you will not do anything to make the kid hate you, right? Lin Che said. Gu Jingze nodded. So it means that you agreed to it. I'm going to change my clothes. She suddenly felt as if she had fallen into his trap. When did she say she agreed to it? However, Gu Jingze had already headed upstairs. Lin Che hurriedly followed behind him. Hey, Gu Jingze, where are you going? There is no room for you here. Don't go over the line. I have already said it, you. Lin Che ran after him and saw Gu Jingze heading straight for her bedroom. Lin Che ran in angrily and was about to scold him when she saw him taking off his clothes. It was not just the outerwear, but he was taking off his entire set of clothes. He was completely half naked before her and on his back. The scars could still be seen clearly, just as she had thought. However, his body seemed more fit than before and was not affected by the scars at all. He appeared to be even more masculine, and that aura of masculinity was exuding with his actions. What was he doing? Lin Che was stunned at the moment. She looked at him and felt hot all of a sudden. Then, she suddenly remembered something. She turned around immediately and was worried that he had seen the amazed look that flashed across her face in a split second. With her back facing him, she gritted her teeth and shouted, Gu Jingze, what are you trying to do? Why are you taking off your clothes in my room? Gu Jingze's eyes glinted. He smiled and walked over. What's wrong? Didn't I tell you that I wanted to change my clothes? This is my room. She had no choice but to remind him again with a stern voice. Gu Jingze said, I know that it's your room, but the servant may have misunderstood and put my clothes here. Thus, I could only come in here to change. If not, I will have no clothes to change into, right? Lin Che did not believe his nonsense. She knew that he did it intentionally. However, Gu Jingze had already quietly walked up behind her. She was in danger but was not aware of it. Instead, she was still fuming mad. I don't care if you have clothes to wear or not. If you don't, leave right away. Lin Che shouted. Leave? Are you saying that I should leave your place while I'm naked? That would not be a good idea, although I don't mind you looking, but after all, Nianian is still here. It was then Lin Che realized that his voice had unknowingly came very close to her and was just right behind her ear. Lin Che turned around right away and almost knocked into his face. When she saw his face up close all of a sudden, she jumped in shock. In a blink of an eye, she saw. He took off his pants as well. What was he doing? Was he here to sell his body? He was wearing boxers and his figure was like a perfect art sculpture. The warmth of his body could be felt, and she felt that she was completely surrounded by his scent and warmth. Lin Che screamed in shock, Gu Jingze, why are you taking off all your clothes? I thought you told me to leave here naked. Lin Che could not control her face and it flushed red completely. She had not seen a man for many years, and it was even such a good-looking man. She could feel her face burning hot, and besides that, her heart was also on fire. Chapter 763. It looks like you're in a good mood. She had not seen a man for many years. Furthermore, the one she was looking at now was such a charming man. She felt her face already burning hot and her heart was also starting to follow. Although she quickly diverted her gaze, his sexy image was already branded in her mind. She was really going crazy. What exactly did this man want? I didn't say you could be naked. You're not allowed to be. Lin Che exclaimed. However, her tone already lost the harshness. Gu Jingze said, fine fine fine. I'm not completely naked anyway. I still have a piece of clothing on me. Lin Che shut her eyes tightly and covered her face with her hands. She yelled in his direction, get out. Get out, get out. Gu Jingze's eyes smiled gently. He only thought she was really cute like this. Especially when her face was like a ripened apple. She was no longer a young child anymore and she was a mother now. However, that face was still so adorable. The light reflecting off the top of her head made it look as if she was glowing and it made him want to take a bite. What exactly did this girl eat growing up? Her skin was so nice. Actually, what Gu Jingze said was right. Yun Luo indeed was not as pretty as Lin Che. He never really took notice of Yun Luo, and now that he thought about it, Yun Luo was graceful and elegant, but she was not the same as Lin Che. Her beauty was also not like Lin Che's. Every inch of her skin seemed to have seduction written all over it. He could not resist. He really wanted to hug her directly right now. However, he could only be a little more patient. At least it was fun to tease her like this. What do you mean by still? This is no different from being naked, she exclaimed as she covered her face. Fine, you're right, I won't be like this anymore. It's my fault, okay. Gu Jingze replied defeatedly. Lin Che thought that he had put his clothes back on, so she put down her hands. However, not only did he not do that, he took everything off. Even that last piece was off. He was bare naked below. He looked so amazingly big and tall. She looked straight at him until her eyes hurt. Damn it, Gu Jingze. He was too shameless. Gu Jingze, why you get out? Was Gu Jingze really selling his body here? Gu Jingze looked at her. I thought that what you said was right. Wearing that just now was as good as not wearing anything. In that case, I might as well not wear it. I actually prefer sleeping naked. This man was too shameless. Lin Che asked, are you going or not? I am. I'm going right now. Gu Jingze inched closer. Lin Che closed her eyes and felt his body come close. His strong muscles did not make his silky skin loose at all. Touching it felt especially good. She had the urge to continue touching him. Lin Che waved her hands frantically. Aren't you going? Why are you coming here? Gu Jingze grew closer and closer to her until he was almost leaning on her body. Hearing her say that, he replied plainly, I want to go out, but the main thing is that you're blocking the door. She had never come across such an annoying man like him. He was clearly doing this on purpose. He was clearly making it seem like he was the innocent one. Lin Che decided to stop listening to him. She glared up hatefully at him and immediately ran out. If he was not leaving, then she would leave. Lin Che ran straight into Gu Jingze's room. Gu Jingze watched as Lin Che entered and caught her breath against the door. He nodded slightly and then continued reading the book in his hands. What happened? Were you bullied by Dad again? Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze. None of your business. Read your book. It was none of my business. That was why no matter how much you yelled outside, I never said anything. However, you're in my room now and this means that you're going to share the room with me tonight. Thus, it is now my business. Lin Che blushed further and looked at him with embarrassment. Did he hear all the yelling outside? Damn it, what did it look like? However, Lin Che thought about it. Gu Jingze had actually already seen all sides of her and he was used to it. Thus, she only shot Gu Jingze a look and sat down. Gu Jingze shook his head. Mama, why don't you surrender? You really cannot win against Dad. Get lost. Stop reading your book and sleep. Go to sleep right now. Seriously, other kids would cling to their mothers during bedtime. They would not be willing to leave even when they got older. However, Gu Jingze already left to sleep on his own at a young age. She wanted him to share a bed with her but he was not willing to. Lin Che said, Union is still cuter. Just look at you. Gu Jingze spoke without looking up. Yes, she's so stupid that seeing her makes you feel connected. Of course, you like her more. Gu, she, Nian. How could he say that about his own mother? Gu Xinian said, Mama, you are seeking my help right now and you're still so arrogant. Be careful if I don't want you and push you out to Dad. Sure enough, she only came into Gu Xinian's room because she believed that Gu Jingze would not dare to do anything reckless in here. Exposed by her own son, Lin Che did not want to think about anything else. She laid down and hugged the blanket to sleep. But his perfect figure was still in her head. That mouthwatering figure made her reminisce it so easily. The image drifted around in her head uncontrollably. She felt herself grow hot and infatuated. After so many years, Gu Jingze really had not changed at all, especially that enchanting aura. No, perhaps it was even stronger now. He was more shameless. He simply stripped right in front of her just now. Thinking about it groggily, she fell asleep. The next day, Gu Jingze woke up early. The maids prepared everything ahead of time. Gu Xinian left for a stroll in the morning with bodyguards following him. A maid said to Gu Jingze, Madam is still sleeping. He walked in and did not wake Lin Che up. He only looked at Lin Che who was sleeping soundly with her blanket. He bent down and kissed her hair lightly. He pulled the blanket over her and then left. Outside, he said to the maid, Don't wake her up. She has been very tired in these past few days. Let her wake up whenever she wants. Yes, sir. The maid smiled and watched Gu Jingze leave. She thought that the feelings of these two have really returned. One was so doting while the other was so adorable. The entire room seemed especially filled with love now. When Gu Jingze went out, he went straight to Chen Yucheng's place. Today was a routine body checkup. Chen Yucheng said, Hey, you look energetic. Why, are you in a good mood? Of course. Chen Yucheng smiled and looked at him. He actually answered him directly. It looked like he was indeed in a very good mood. Chapter 764. It still feels the same on set. Oh right, since Madam has decided to stay here, have you thought of which preschool you want to send young master to? There are 2 good ones near my place that you can consider. Gu Jingze scowled. Preschool. He had not thought of this. Chen Yucheng said, What kind of dad are you? You must definitely think of this. Because you had not experienced being in a community, your character is so unsociable. You can't let your son follow in your footsteps, right? Although the Gu family has homeschool teachers, it is also necessary for him to experience community life at school. Gu Jingze said, I will consider it. Chen Yucheng asked, Oh yes, is the Gu family aware of Lin Che's return? They should know about it already. Gu Jingze replied. Don't you have any plans? I will bring them home after a few days. Gu Jingze stood up and said, I'm here for another matter. Oh, what is it? Ask Shen Yoren to invite Lin Che over tomorrow. Isn't Shen Yoren going to ask Lin Che over to visit your 2 kids? Chen Yucheng knew that he was never interested in this stuff. Honestly speaking, what are you up to? Gu Jingze said, just an invitation will do. Why are you asking so much? Chen Yucheng caught his gaze and it seemed that he was planning for something. It was not an icy cold gaze. It felt like he was planning for something a little heartwarming. That day, Lin Che went to watch Shui Yong for his filming. It had been a long while since she went to the set. When she was in the car, Abby said, for today's drama, they are filming Shui Yang's final scenes. This drama is adapted from the manga and it's quite popular. There are many new actors in it. You will know it once you see it then. Let's go. It's nothing new compared to filming in the past. Yes, there was a sense of familiarity on the set. Lin Che looked around and felt comfortable and familiar at heart. However, when everyone saw her, they shot glances at her. Some had taken her as a newbie and did not recognize that she was a movie star who was very popular in the past. They were not to be blamed for forgetting it so easily, but in this era where there was overwhelming information, the rate of elimination was very high as well. Some renowned celebrities might have risen to stardom suddenly, but if they did not appear on the screen for a while, people forgot about them. After all, one could lose his or her popularity overnight. Therefore, many popular celebrities did not dare to take breaks. They took on dramas one after another to ensure that they were still active in the industry. Lin Che had not appeared in the media for a long time. The team on set had changed more than once. Thus, it was natural that there were not many who recognized her. But when everyone saw Abby, they would call out her name and greet her. Shui Yong had his own resting room. The two of them went into the room. Shui Yong got up quickly. Sister Lin Che, what brought you here today? Lin Che laughed. I'm here to see what drama you are acting in. Nothing technical or advanced, Sister Lin Che. Don't laugh at me after you have seen it. Hey, what's most important is that it's interesting. There's nothing technical or not. It's a form of success to gain the audience's approval. Alright, don't care about me. Do what you have to do. I will just be looking around, so you don't have to give special attention to me. Abby also said, yes, go and continue your filming. I will show Lin Che around. Shui Yong smiled and said, alright then. Take your time to watch me. I am about to go for 2 scenes. Afterward, let's go and have lunch together. Then, Shui Yong went over for his scenes. Lin Che stood there watching. She knew Shui Yong acted well too. There was an emotional scene that made Lin Che very touched, and she had not expected herself to be so absorbed in the drama. She thought of how she would portray the role if she was the one acting. Indeed, she had not forgotten about acting. After all, she was so skilled in it then, and it was also her dream. Lin Che was still watching, but she suddenly heard a voice from the back. It was very sharp and sounded very sarcastic. Hey, come and look at who is this. Am I seeing things, or is that Lin Che? Lin Che and Abby turned around and saw the person who was walking towards them. It was Qin Wanwan. Lin Che felt that it had been ages since they last met. However, looking at her makeup, Lin Che knew that she was most likely there for filming, but the strange thing was that the role that she was playing had the look of an old woman. Lin Che assessed her and said, yes, you didn't see wrong. It's me. I did not expect to meet you here. Hello. Abby shot a glance at Qin Wanwan and whispered to Lin Che, she had lost her popularity. Ever since you left, the dramas she took on were quite ordinary. Now, she's taking on side roles such as someone's mom or a good friend. Lin Che had not expected this. Back then, she was considered quite popular, but it had not been very long before her popularity began to decline and ended up in the current state today. Had she run out of luck, or she did not have the capability? However, despite what Lin Che had said, Qin Wanwan was still full of arrogance when she saw Lin Che. That's strange. Everyone said that you went abroad to marry a wealthy man. Why are you back now? Lin Che laughed. Those were just rumors. I'm more surprised by you. Your look is rather unique. What are you playing this time around? Qin Wanwan's expression darkened. Lin Che looked at her and went past her. She sized up Qin Wanwan with a proud gaze, and it made Qin Wanwan ashamed at once. Even though Lin Che spoke with a calm tone, it still made one feel as terrible as getting one's face ripped off. She said, oh, are you challenging yourself with new roles? Right, you've been acting for a long time. You must have tried every role, so you're getting sick of them. It's understandable that you want to try some other roles. This role that you are playing now is indeed quite challenging. This look is good too, and it fits you very well. Lin Che's eyes were fixed on her, and it made Qin Wanwan so embarrassed that she badly wanted to find somewhere to hide. She initially wanted to mock Lin Che, thinking that she must have been duped while she was abroad and now had returned to the showbiz industry again. She had not expected the tables to turn against her and to be mocked by Lin Che to the point that she got really ashamed. That's right. I'm sick of the other roles, unlike you who are so scheming that you pull out in the midst of filming to go after some sugar daddy. Why? What are you here for? Are you going to act again? Your sugar daddy can't provide for you. Oh, acting. You have misunderstood, Wanwan. My company's artist is here for filming. I came over to take a look. I didn't expect to run into you here. Qin Wanwan was stunned again. She had forgotten that Shui Yong came from the same company as Lin Che, but could it be that the company belonged to Lin Che? Was it not Yu Minmin's company? At that moment, someone called out, Wanwan, what are you doing? Why aren't you here? Qin Wanwan turned around and shouted back, oh, Yu, I'm here. She lifted her face and looked at Lin Che. You would never guess who I bumped into. Come here and see. Chapter 765. Lin Che was actually that wealthy. Then, a slim and tall beautiful lady came walking in from the back. What is it? Who have you met? The moment she saw Lin Che, she recognized her at once. However, her expression twitched a little before she regained her composure. She smiled and looked at Qin Wanwan. Oh, who is this? Qin Wanwan laughed. This is Lin Che. If she had not run off to marry a wealthy man in the midst of filming, you would not have gotten the chance to act in that film. Shouldn't you come over and say hello? The girl who just came in was Peng Yu. She was a new celebrity who was very popular in the last 2 years. Taking a closer look, her elegance and aura resembled Lin Che. Lin Che recalled at once. For the sake of Gu Jingze and her child, and also definitely for the sake of her happiness, she gave up the Hollywood film, Blood, and someone in Sea Country took over her role. Thereafter, Lin Che did not want to follow the news of Blood, and therefore, she did not have much recollection about this lady. However, everyone in Sea Country knew that Peng Yu shot to fame after she acted in that film, and there were endless offers ever since then. Peng Yu also knew that she gained the opportunities after she replaced Lin Che, so she had a deep impression of Lin Che. Peng Yu said, "Oh, it's Lin Che. I was still wondering who it was." Peng Yu sized Lin Che up. Previously, people always told her that she looked like Lin Che and it annoyed her. Now that she could take a closer look, there was indeed resemblance in both of them, but Lin Che was a lot more beautiful, like a stunningly gorgeous flower blooming silently yet giving off a sweet fragrance that captured everyone's attention. She sneered, "Ayo, Senior Lin Che. When did you come back? It's all thanks to you that you gave up that role so that I could benefit from it." Qin Wanwan looked at Lin Che and said directly, "Lin Che, you should know Peng Yu, right? She's considered one of the top actresses here at home. She's really impressive. Times have changed and the old ones will always be replaced." What she was trying to say was that Lin Che would not be able to make it in the industry anymore as her popularity had fallen. The one before her was truly the celebrity. Lin Che lowered her head to look at Peng Yu. Peng Yu was slightly shorter than her but had a sharp nose. She could tell that there were some procedures done on it. She laughed and said, "Oh, that's true, and you indeed look a little like me. Hey, your nose looks good. You must have spent lots of money on it. Did you ask them to follow my nose shape when you did the procedure?" Peng Yu was furious. "Lin Che, are you saying that I went for cosmetic surgery? You sounded like you have not done any procedure at all. Humph, look at that face of yours. You must have injected a lot of collagen, right?" Her face was as soft as tofu. Lin Che had such a wonderful complexion that Peng Yu would not believe that she had not done anything to it. Lin Che asked, "Collagen? I do eat it very often, but I don't quite like to do anything to my face because that would affect my luck. My luck is great. Why do I want to change it? Just a word of caution. Don't do anything to your face. You just have to maintain a good state of mind. Don't get involved in plotting against others. Rest more at home, breathe in the fresh air, get rid of your worries, and maintain a good mood. Your skin will naturally get better." Abby, who was listening to them, added, "Of course, you have no worries. You are the boss and you just have to wait at home to collect money. We are the ones who are running around." Lin Che said, "Fine, it's tough on all of you, but you don't even care about the salary that I give you. That is because we set the company for fun. Who knew that eventually, we would venture so far and the company would do so well?" Abby looked at Qin Wanwan and Peng Yu. "Oh, hello. I am Lin Bai, the manager of Lin Che's work studio. We hope to work together with you in the future. If you are being exploited, plotted against, and feel upset as a result and have to go for collagen injections, you can come over to our company. Look at our boss Lin Che. You will know that our company has a better environment than yours." "You." Peng Yu looked at Lin Che. Qin Wanwan was also staring at her. Lin Che simply stood there without having to say another word. Her handbag and clothes exuded her aura, especially the huge pigeon egg ring on her finger. It looked extremely pricey. Qin Wanwan, who thought that Lin Che only came back because she was down and out, became speechless all of a sudden. At that moment, Shui Yang's voice called out from the back. "Sister Lin Che, it's great that you are still around. I thought you left." Shui Yang was very popular and had a large number of fans. One could imagine how much money he made and how many film companies came to him in the queue. Peng Yu was the female lead in this drama while Shui Yang was the male lead. Peng Yu had always wanted to cotton up to him, but Shui Yong did not give much thought about her. He simply stayed with the people from his own company as well as his manager. People said that he was very cold and aloof, bearing the aura of Gu Jingze. Many male celebrities were like that too because they were pampered by some of their fans. In comparison, the female celebrities did not have such a presence. However, Shui Yong came into the room. He respectfully walked towards Lin Che. When speaking to her, he sounded very enthusiastic, "Sister Lin Che." Lin Che laughed, "I'm still waiting for you. It's my first time watching you act. I'll treat you to a meal after filming ends." Shui Yong replied hurriedly, "How can I let Sister Lin Che treat me? It was Sister Lin Che who groomed me, and because of Sister Lin Che, I was able to come so far. I am definitely paying for the meal." Abby said, "That's alright, Shui Yong earned some money now. Even though he can't treat you to something really expensive, something mid-range is definitely okay. Give him a chance to prove himself." "Yes, I know that it definitely pales in comparison to what Sister Lin Che usually eats. The chefs there are not as good as the ones at Sister Lin Che's place, but I still hope that Sister Lin Che can give me a chance to treat her to a meal." Lin Che let out a sigh and said, "Okay then. If you insist, but don't say that I'm bullying you. I will get something expensive." "Of course, I would not dare to treat Sister Lin Che to something that is not of a high grade." Peng Yu and Qin Wanwan, who were watching by the side, were very shocked. They watched Lin Che walking out with Shui Yong and Abby with a proud smile. Peng Yu looked at Qin Wanwan. "Is she that rich now?" Qin Wanwan was not aware as well. She could only say, "Who knows? She might just be pretending. Shui Yong is so careful around her. She must have been very influential. I heard that many people went over to try and get Shui Yong over to their companies, but Shui Yong declined them all. Doesn't this mean that Lin Che's work studio is so powerful that Shui Yong will not bear to leave it? No matter how big the other company is, he will not accept it." Qin Wanwan's eyes moved. "That's because the work studio belongs to Yu Minmin. Yu Minmin is so influential." "Impossible, if it's Yu Minmin alone, Lin Che would have been kicked out long ago, but look at her." Chapter 766. Let's go visit Shen Yoren. Peng Yu pointed outside. There were 4 bodyguards following behind Lin Che. The chauffeur who opened the door for her was exceptionally polite, and the car that she was getting into was a high-class Porsche multi-purpose van. That car cost at least 1,000 million. It was imported from overseas, and one could tell that it was extremely pricey. Qin Wanwan stared at the car in a daze. After a long time she muttered to herself, could it be that Lin Che had really married some powerful, wealthy man a few years ago? She had not heard of it at all. However, seeing that Lin Che was leading such a good life, Qin Wanwan was defeated and speechless. Peng Yu snorted, "She's really lucky. Now that she's a boss, she will not continue acting right. Otherwise." Looking at her just now, although Peng Yu was younger than Lin Che by 2 years, she could not deny that in terms of complexion, figure, and looks, Lin Che beat her in every aspect. Although she was considered the better-looking actresses in the industry, but before Lin Che she was defeated immediately. Deep down her heart, she wished that Lin Che would not return to the showbiz to act again. Otherwise, she would be a tough opponent. Outside, Lin Che looked at Shui Yong and Abby. "Both of you have amazing rapport." Shui Yong took the front seat while Abby sat at the back. Abby laughed so hard that she rocked back and forth. Thinking of the 2 women whose facial expression became so dark and annoyed at the end, that was indeed too hilarious. Before Shui Yong went in, he heard the 3 of them talking, so after he went in, he pretended to butter up to Lin Che in front of them. After all, he was an actor and definitely a good one at that. Shui Yong said, "But I'm sincere in some of the words I said. Sister Lin Che, where do you want to eat? I will pay." Lin Che said, "Anywhere will do. Actually, I don't have to eat something expensive, I may not be used to it either. Why not we go for skewers? I have not eaten them for a long time. When I was abroad, I tried to make it, but they don't taste good." Abby said, Good. I know a place." Abby had lived here for 4 years. She was very familiar with the food recommendations. The delicious food was one of the reasons why she did not bear to leave Sea Country. Abby said, "We didn't say anything wrong. Your chefs at home are truly amazing. How can the chefs outside compare with them? Previously, I went to Yu Minmin's place to eat and oh my. You weren't there to taste it for yourself how good it was. Lin Che said, that's for sure. Those are the chefs who prepare the national banquet, so it is definitely extraordinary. Abby said, but this Qin Wanwan is really good at sucking up. Once she saw that she could not sustain on her own, she went over to suck up to Peng Yu. Qin Wanwan's company had long given up on her. They were only taking on some supporting roles for her. But she deserved it since she took it upon herself because she was always thinking of plotting something against others. Now, everyone knew that she's a two-faced, double-dealing person. Who would still want to be around her? This Peng Yu has also been very shameless. She would go to Shui Yang's room out of the blue and she will go over at night. Once, I went to open the door and it made Peng Yu so shocked, ha ha ha. Shui Yang blushed. Lin Che laughed, that's because Shui Yang is charming. Shui Yang said, that's not it. Abby said, don't deny it. You are growing well into a fine gentleman and is so much more good-looking. There were so many companies waiting to poach you, right? Shui Yang asked, why didn't I hear of it? Abby said, nah, those bastards who treated you to a meal out of the blue aren't they waiting to poach you? Thankfully, you are considered very obedient. You didn't say yes to any of them. Otherwise, let alone Lin Che, I will not let you off. Yes, you are so fierce, how would I dare? Besides, the other companies have to consider our capabilities too. I will definitely cling on to Mrs. Gu and then cling on to Mrs. President, and also cling on to you, Miss Wesley, right? Indeed, it seemed like their company was very formidable but the outsiders only knew about Yu Minmin. They were not aware of the rest. Hearing what Shui Yang said, the other two laughed at once. At night, the three of them went to a grilled skewers shop and the owner knew Abby. There were not many who could recognize Lin Che but many of them knew who Shui Yang was. In a short while, Shui Yang was recognized right away and although the owner was not a fan of him, he was very thrilled to have a celebrity at his shop. He took a photograph with Shui Yang and specially treated them to many things. After the three of them ate, they went back to their own homes. While Lin Che was on her way home, Shen Yoren called to invite her over to play. Lin Che had wanted to visit the twins for a long time, so she immediately agreed. The next day, Lin Che brought Ji Yushinian along to Chen Yucheng's place. His place was quite a distance away. When both of them got there, it was already past 9 o'clock. When they got out of the car, Shen Yoren was waiting outside and next to her stood Chen Yucheng. Ah, Lin Che, you are here. Ayo, young master, let me have a look. Nianian grew up a lot. Lin Che said, Nianian, greet auntie. Auntie Yoren, Ji Yushinian called out. Good boy, Nianian looks so obedient. Lin Che giggled, yes if you look at his face alone, he's indeed obedient. Shen Yoren asked, seriously, which part of him is not obedient? You must be content. Go to my place and look at those two of mine and you will understand. Thinking about it, having two sons would indeed be boisterous. Lin Che said, daughters are still more obedient. Why didn't I give birth to a daughter? Look at Union who is so obedient. I wish I could stuff someone back into my womb and create it all over again. Ji Yushinian lifted up his head. Mommy, I can always marry Union when I'm older. In this way, you will have me and Union. You are in luck you know. Lin Che said, humph, I would like to see if you could fool her over. Shen Yoren remarked in surprise, Aiya, Nianian, you knew so much despite your young age. Not bad, you are very promising and have inherited your father's genes. Chen Yucheng watched them from the back and said, tisk tisk, I can foresee that the world has another demon that will be difficult to deal with. Shen Yoren lifted her head. You don't understand. Nianian is so good looking that whatever he says is right. This is an era where people just look at the face. Come, Nianian, let auntie bring you in to know my two little boys. Go quickly. Remember to teach my two guys how to win girls over. Chen Yucheng stood at the back, dumbfounded. Chen Yucheng's house was very big as well but it seemed more solemn. This probably had to do with his occupation. The house was furnished with a warmer tone and the ornaments were more solemn. In the living room, the entire place had turned into a playground. There were no coffee tables, but a huge carpet on the ground and the children's toys were left all around. Chen Yan, Chen Ju, what are two of you doing? Come quickly and see. Brother Nianian is here. Lin Che had always told her that she was too casual with coming up names for her children. The two children were called Chen Yan, which means old, and Chen Ju, which means obsolete. Would she not be worried that they would resent her when they grow up? However, Shen Yoren felt that she should pick names that were easier to pronounce and didn't need to worry about the rest. Chapter 767, Gu Jingze is everywhere. The two kids came running out of the room. They were only 2 years old, so behind them followed a nanny who was looking after them. The two kids looked very mischievous and they did not greet Lin Che when they saw her. But when they saw Gu Xinian, they went over to Gu Xinian since kids love to play with kids. Gu Xinian looked very speechless and his expression spoke of 4 words, stay away from me. Shen Yoren saw his expression and laughed out loud. She told Gu Xinian, Nianian, you were once this annoying when you were younger. Quote. Gu Xinian was only a year older than them but he appeared to be a few years older than them. Lin Che thought to herself, Gu Xinian was not like that. Since he was young, Gu Xinian did not speak much, and he was not mischievous. He would play on his own and when he wanted to create trouble, he would think of different ways to do it. Often, the trouble he created was not the usual things that a little kid would do, such as running back to B City from Seattle alone. Lin Che said, Nianian, you are a big brother. You need to be nice to the younger brothers. Go, like how you take care of Union. Go and take care of these 2 younger brothers and play with them. Gu Xinian lifted his head. That's because Union is a girl and there might be chances for development in the future. That's why I was patient with her. Shen Yoren said, that goes the same for younger brothers as well. Gu Xinian raised his head and looked at Shen Yoren speechlessly, all right, I will try. Shen Yoren broke into laughter. Chen Yucheng said, hey, if you cause the descendant of Gu family to become homosexual, do you believe that Gu family will come after you? Shen Yoren said, it's a pity that our 2 children are not girls, sigh. The nanny came over and said, I will bring the children out to play. Madam, don't worry about them. You can go and chat with Mrs. Gu. Alright, go ahead. The nanny brought the kids out. Shen Yoren and Chen Yucheng found a place to sit down and just as they took their seats, they heard someone coming through the door. His footsteps were firm and steady and his eyes scanned the entire place. Lin Che felt that something was amiss. She turned around and when she saw Gu Jingze at the door, she was so shocked. What was going on? Why was he here? Chen Yucheng stood up immediately, President Gu, you are here. Shen Yoren stood up as well and laughed dryly. Lin Che asked him directly, hey, why are you here? Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. Why, can't I come? As he spoke, he had already entered the house. He seemed so calm as if that was his house. Gu Jingze was fearless. No matter what he did it like it was a natural thing to do and that was strange. However, this would not make anyone happy or annoyed. Even though Gu Jingze refused to leave Lin Che's place, Lin Che continued to avoid him for the past few days. At home, she would stay in a room and not leave the room. She had not expected this Gu Jingze to be everywhere and he had even followed her to Shen Yoren's place. Lin Che looked at Shen Yoren in shock. The moment Gu Jingze entered their place, this couple did not have any strange expressions at all. In fact, they seemed very calm. Could it be that? Shen Yoren looked at Lin Che and giggled, all right, Lin Che. He's already here, so be it. We hardly come together for a gathering, so I specifically told them to prepare hot pot. Let's eat it together later. The ones you eat abroad are definitely not authentic. The soup base that I got them to get from outside is exceptionally good and authentic. It's a double soup base that you have not seen before so you will drool when you see it. Lin Che pulled Shen Yoren over and narrowed her eyes at Shen Yoren. With a threatening expression, she said, Shen. You. Ran. Wait and see. Shen Yoren laughed and whispered, what's wrong? Both of you should have enough of quarreling. Anyway, you won't be able to quarrel for long. You can't win against Gu Jingze so it would be better if you reconcile earlier. In this way, the people around them would not have to worry that this couple is fighting again. Chen Yucheng also said, all right. Since you are here, we can all sit down and have a chat. Hey, Yoren, you said we will be eating hot pot, right? Let's go over and see if it's ready. Chen Yucheng came over to pull Shen Yoren. Shen Yoren quickly replied, oh, yes, let's go. The two of them left the room right away, leaving Lin Che and Gu Jingze alone. Lin Che wanted to call out for Shen Yoren, but she felt her arm held back by Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze said, all right, who are you calling out to? She has left. Come and sit here. Lin Che refused. She looked at Gu Jingze and asked, you are really everywhere like a ghost. Gu Jingze's eyes narrowed and his gaze seemed to be angry. What do you mean by a ghost? Do you really wish for me to die? Lin Che had already sworn in her heart that she would not curse him to death no matter what. Thus, she was not able to curse him. She could only glare at him angrily, wishing that looks could kill. Gu Jingze looked at her and pulled her over to the sofa. With a gentle pull, Lin Che landed in his lap. Lin Che stared at Gu Jingze in shock. What are you doing? She wanted to get up, but Gu Jingze's strong arms wrapped around her waist and pulled her into an embrace. Lin Che glared angrily at him. He laughed and told Lin Che, you became skinnier, why did this happen? I will get a chef over tomorrow, the one who was your favorite in the past. I'm sure you are missing his food. There's no need to. I'm skinny because I have a good figure. Gu Jingze's brows furrowed, is it? Speaking, his hand slipped into her clothes and touched her flat stomach. The muscles were firm and there was no belly fat at all. For a mother with a 3-year-old child, many would have envied her for her flat tummy. One could tell that this was the effort of her continuous workouts. It was nice to touch, but he liked that she was a little rounder because it pained him to see her being skinny. Indeed, very skinny, but you don't have to work out too much. It's actually good to have more meat. He looked at her and declared nonchalantly as if he had not slipped his hand into her clothes. His expression remained very natural. Lin Che glared at him and frowned. She wanted to remove his hand, but he was too strong and she could not shift it at all. It's none of your business. Gu Jingze's hand moved upward naturally and he was almost touching the soft area of her chest. Say it. Is it none of my business? It was as if electricity had gone through her body. Lin Che wanted to get up but she could not as he was hugging her tightly. No. Her face flushed red immediately, yet she was still stubbornly screaming, no. Who knew that Gu Jingze's hand would continue to move upward? His fingers touched the bottom part of her bra and were gently infringing into it. Lin Che sat up immediately and felt that his hand was about to slip in. She stopped his hand. Gu Jingze, what are you doing? They were still at someone's home, what was he trying to do? Gu Jingze said, say it, is it still none of my business? He was really blatantly threatening her. Chapter 768. Are you going to give me a kiss? Lin Che looked around. Since this was someone else's house, she felt very insecure. It seemed like someone would walk in at any minute. Lin Che seemed very uncomfortable. She looked at Gu Jingze. You are not afraid that someone would see us? Gu Jingze smiled. Of course. I'm touching my own wife. What does that have to do with them? Shameless, utterly shameless. That's enough. Gu Jingze then gave a satisfied smile. He hugged her and touched her, but his hand did not seem to move away. Lin Che was blushing red as she looked at him. Fine. I don't want to let go. I can't bear to let go of you. Her breasts most likely became that way after she gave birth. The touch felt different compared to the past. He closed his eyes and sighed, but he was not willing to let go of the touch. Lin Che was panicking. Hands off. Let me go, Gu Jingze. I have already said it, yet you still. Gu Jingze pressed himself close to her hair. Looking at her, his eyes were filled with seduction like a lazy cat longing to be stroked, and he was so good looking. I'm craving for it, he mumbled, and his voice was like the atmosphere after some rain. It was moist and it stirred up her heart. However, what did he say? Craving for it? Lin Che could not take it any longer. Her face flushed red and she slapped his shoulders repeatedly. Let go of me, shameless. You are spouting nonsense. What are you saying? If you don't let go of me now, I will bite you until you die. Lin Che said, let go of me. Let go of me quickly. Gu Jingze said, "Give me a kiss and I will let you go." Lin Che did not believe him. "You did not keep your word just now. I'm not going to listen to you. How about I give you a kiss before I let you go?" Gu Jingze laughed softly. "No way. If you continue to be like that, they are coming back anytime soon." Gu Jingze used his cheeks to rub against her face. The stubble on his face tickled her face and Gu Jingze loved this feeling, including threatening her and watching her embarrassed face while she could not do anything to him. He missed that very much. Lin Che looked outside and it indeed seemed like someone was coming. Anxiously, she looked at their posture. It was outrageous. However, Gu Jingze simply gave her an expression to hint that the decision laid in her hands. He continued to lift up his cheeks and stared at her as he waited for her to make up her mind. Lin Che was fuming mad, but at that time, she could not beat his shamelessness. Without any choice, she pouted and glared at him angrily. She had no choice but to give a peck on the cheek on his face. Gu Jingze was satisfied. He released his arms and let go of her. As she moved away from him, he touched her one more time and she glared at him furiously. Meanwhile, Gu Jingze acted as if nothing had happened. He crossed his legs and sat still. The person who came in was just a servant. She left after placing some things on the table. Lin Che gave him another death stare and shifted her position to shift further away from Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze asked, "I heard that you went to the set previously. Is that true?" Lin Che said, "Yes, I did. What's wrong?" Gu Jingze asked, "Are you going to continue acting?" Lin Che paused for a moment. She had not come to a decision yet, but she could not deny that after visiting the set yesterday and watching the crew running around busily, she missed filming very much even though it was very tiring. Looking at her own role actualizing a little by little made her feel a deep sense of achievement. This was especially so after background music was added, as it then became a complete product. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze. "I'm considering but have not made a decision yet." Gu Jingze was worried that filming would be too tiring for her, but if it was something she wanted to do, he would never stop her. "Okay, if you wish to continue, I will watch Nianian. Besides, Chen Yucheng suggested sending Nianian to preschool. What do you think?" Preschool. Back at Seattle, Lin Che had a tutor who would come over every day to teach Nianian. She was an American and she had taught Nianian to speak fluent American English. She also taught Nianian many things about daily life and safety. Lin Che felt that those were important while they were abroad. After the child became more aware of his environment, he should be taught about safety so that he would know what he should do when a fire or earthquake occurred or when he got lost in a foreign place. However, Nianian had not been to preschool before. Lin Che said, "That's good. He can go to preschool to help him change that stubborn temperament." Gu Jingze smiled. "Don't worry. It will get better once he's older. Fortunately, he inherited my intelligence, so things should not be too bad, but if he was like you, then." Gu Jing, see, Lin Che shouted again. At that moment, Shen Yoren and Chen Yucheng came in. They saw both of them finally sitting together on the sofa. However, Lin Che was red with anger while Gu Jingze was smiling widely. Shen Yoren said, "That's enough, both of you. Come and eat hot pot." Lin Che got up hurriedly. The hot pot was already prepared and the three children were sitting in a row. Gu Xinian seemed to be tortured badly. He kept on shaking his head repeatedly, but the two kids just would not listen to him. They continued to create a ruckus and was totally out of control. Seeing the adults walk in, Gu Xinian jumped off his chair hurriedly and walked over to Lin Che. "Mummy, can I eat together with you all?" Lin Che looked at the hot pot. "No, this is not healthy. Children cannot eat this. The three of you will eat those." The nanny had already prepared a meal for the children. Gu Xinian took a glance at the meals and said, "I don't want to eat that funny-looking rice. It looks too childish." Lin Che said, "It doesn't matter. This is unhealthy. Anyway, I will also eat it in the future. I should eat more now to strengthen my immune system." Seeing that Lin Che could not deal with him, Gu Jingze spoke up, "Nianian, go over there and eat. A man should be able to submit and stand firm. If you cannot accept this, then you will have lots to adjust to in the future." He glared at Gu Xinian. "After you finish eating, I will bring you to the racecourse in the afternoon." The moment he heard, racecourse, Gu Xinian's eyes lit up. Looking at Gu Jingze and Lin Che, he nodded and said, fine, everyone needs to pay a price for something they do. Shen Yoren was very amused by his antics. It seemed like kids will be quite different when they are older. Look at our two kids. They don't know anything yet. Lin Che said, yes, there are new changes every day. Look at them and you will know. As they grow older, they learn things more quickly. Right now, you think that they don't know anything, but half a year later, you will not be able to outwit them in their words. Chapter 769, The Unexpected Sweet Gestures. Speaking, Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze who was beside her. He was surprisingly good at handling Gu Xinian but bringing him to the racecourse. Lin Che said, isn't it too dangerous to go to the racecourse? He's still so young. Gu Jingze said plainly, I had my first horse when I was 3. Fine, maybe the education for the wealthy worked differently. Gu Jingze leaned backward in his seat, besides, the racecourse was bought for him when he was born. I'm just bringing him to see his own personal asset. What, you bought a racecourse? What's wrong? Lin Che wanted to say that he was still so young. Why should he have personal assets? However, she thought of Gu Jingyan. Besides racecourses, she had many houses and land when she was very young. They were all given to her as presents by her relatives. Besides, Gu Xinian was the first kid of the Gu family, so this was definitely unavoidable. Shen Yoren said, all right, come quickly and eat. The ingredients were placed into the hot pot, one by one. Soon, they could all smell the fragrance of the hot pot. When the food was cooked, Lin Che tucked in excitedly. It's delicious, right, Lin Che? It's so much better than the ones overseas, right? The taste is very authentic. The soup was boiled with many ingredients yesterday and it's exceptionally rich. Is it spicy? Why not drink some clear soup? This soup is also made with premium grade chicken soup. They are both yummy. Lin Che ate too quickly and scalded her mouth. She pouted in pain. Gu Jingze frowned beside her. Look at you, why are you eating so quickly? Nobody is snatching it from you. He took a tissue and stretched over to her. Come, wipe it. Lin Che was eating it very happily, so she did not pay attention to anything else. She inched closer for him to wipe her mouth. On the other side, the other couple watched both of them and they became silent. Seriously, were they going to show how lovey-dovey they were? Shen Yoren said, Aiyo, I'm so jealous. A kiss on the hand and wiping the mouth. Look at how husbands are supposed to behave. Chen Yucheng said, I can do it too as long as you are not afraid that I will wipe it too hard on you. Come closer. Shen Yoren imitated Lin Che's actions and inched closer to him. Chen Yucheng hit the tissue on her mouth lightly. Shen Yoren was hopping mad. Chen Yucheng, wait and see what I will do to you. Hee, I'm wrong, wifey. Please don't forbid me from sleeping in the bed tonight. I can take any other punishment. Across them, Lin Che's face darkened. However, she was also feeling a little embarrassed inside. She thought to herself, she was to blame as well. How could she not think and just lean over to him? Gu Jingze watched on plainly. He laughed and continued eating his food slowly as if he was not affected by what the others did. Occasionally, he lifted up his head to look at Lin Che who was beside him and broke into a wider grin. At that moment, Gu Jingze placed some of his food into her bowl. Eat this, I cooled them for you. The couple across them could not take it any longer. Hello President Gu, must you do that? I have already said to not be too lovey-dovey in front of me. Otherwise, it will raise my wife's expectations of what a man should do and that will be terrible. My life is very comfortable now. I don't want to become a slave for a wife like you. Lin Che blushed. Go away, what nonsense are you talking about? Gu Jingze laughed at the side. My wife needs to be taken care of. She's silly and does not know how to take care of herself and she might even land herself in trouble. Our family is special, don't mind us. What was he talking about? Who was silly? You are the silly one. Lin Che snorted. Gu Jingze said, yes, I'm silly. Gu Jingze shrugged and his expression seemed to say that he had to give in to her. Shen Yoren laughed at his expression. She thought that Lin Che would never be on par with Gu Jingze and it would be better if she did not insist on going against him. Gu Jingze asked, when both of us sit together, who do you think is the more foolish one in everyone's eyes? That's you for sure. Everyone would definitely think that you are fooled by me because you let go of many ladies from wealthy families to marry me right away. If you weren't the foolish one, do you think I am the foolish one? Lin Che said. Gu Jingze raised his brow. Alright, you aren't wrong. It seemed like I'm really the foolish one. Lin Che laughed out loud and was still feeling proud of herself that she finally outwitted him. Suddenly, she felt something strange. She lifted her head and looked in front of her. Shen Yuan and Chen Yucheng were looking at her meaningfully and their expressions were very obvious. Lin Che let out a dry cough and badly wanted to give herself a slap. How did she get to that topic with him? They were supposedly at a cold war with each other. They were bickering but unknowingly, they saw eye to eye on this issue and that feeling was exactly the same as in the past. However, she did not wish for that to happen. She got carried away without knowing. She turned around and glared at him. He must have seduced her. This man was too scheming. Although she knew that he was not to be blamed, he was just very good-looking, very charming, very well-spoken, very seductive, and very shameless. She still wanted to push the blame onto him. Humph. Gu Jingze said, fine, we can discuss this next time. Let's eat something. He continued to pick the food for Lin Che. Lin Che glared at him angrily and he said, be good. The food you ate is too hot. It's not good for the body to scald your mouth. Eat something that has cooled down. Did he really understand what she was saying? She had already told him to not interfere in her business. Gu Jingze's eyes shifted. Those clear irises seemed to be sparkling. What's wrong? Open your mouth so I can feed you. While speaking, he held up his chopsticks and took a piece of food to feed her. Lin Che leaned backward and said helplessly, all right, put it down, put it down. Why was there a need to feed her? Was there something wrong with him? Gu Jingze grinned. All right, then eat it on your own. Come, eat more. He took more vegetables and placed it in her bowl. Lin Che rolled her eyes but she just ate the food. Shen Yuan and Chen Yucheng watched them from the other side and they were very tickled by this couple's antics. After they finished eating, the children were still playing inside. The two children were fed. Lin Che walked over and sat down to play with them. She lifted up her head and said, both of you love your children so much that you have turned your house into a children's playground. Shen Yuan said, the children are still young. They love to play all over the place and we can't do anything. We shifted away everything we could. Your Nianian is too obedient. Look at our house. It's in a mess because of the two kids. Lin Che said, that's still manageable. You have no idea what kind of trouble he creates. Gu Xinian shouted from the side, Mommy. Shen Yuan asked, what's wrong? He was just running away from America. I thought that it was very impressive to take the plane on his own at such a young age. Lin Che said, I will talk about that next time, but when he was in America, he took Union along and the two children left home together. In the end, they were sent to a social welfare home. Chapter 770. Something happened to Mu Fair in all of a sudden. Gu Xinian looked up. Mother, that's because you're too authoritarian. I had no choice but to rebel only because you keep forcing me to do things I didn't want to do. To hell with you. Lin Che scoffed and continued complaining to Shen Yuan. He even used his bodyguards to cut the circuit of the television station. We suffered such a huge loss because of that. Mother, that's because their fiber optical circuit destroyed the toy castle that I spent so much time making for Union. They wanted to scare us seeing as we were children. Thus, I had to let them know that they absolutely should not look down on children. Beside them, Shen Yuan clapped and said, Dear me. Nianian is brilliant. However, just then, Chen Yan flicked the ink onto Gu Xinian's face from opposite him. Chen Ju also started laughing out loud. There were black lines all over Gu Xinian's face as he looked at the naughty children across him. There was one thing that he was completely weak to, children. He thought to himself that it would be great if all children were as obedient as Union. He felt that if they were to spend time together in the future, he definitely had to properly educate these two children and make them obey him no matter what. Ji Yushinian pulled Chen Yan to his feet. Come on, Chen Yan. Let's do something else. Shen Yoren immediately said, sure. Take the two younger boys with you. Ji Yushinian turned and smiled faintly. Lin Che immediately said, hey, you better not play any tricks. Otherwise, I'll definitely hit you. Ji Yushinian said, I'm a person who protects children. For some reason, Lin Che felt that it was not a good idea for Ji Yushinian to take the two children out. However, although Nianian was mischievous, she was well aware that he was not a demon child. Years later, Lin Che would probably think that Nianian was truly evil when she saw how he brought the younger children with him on his escapades every day. But at the moment, he was still a child after all. Gu Jingze said, all right. Let Nianian go. He knows what to do. I believe that he's a person who knows what is appropriate behavior. However, at that moment, Lin Che's phone started ringing. She held her phone up and unexpectedly saw Mu Feiren's name. Hello, Feiren. However, Mu Feiren's voice over the phone sounded like she was crying. Lin Che, we're in trouble. Mo Ding has taken Union away. She's been taken away. What? Lin Che asked in surprise, what happened? Mu Feiren cried while saying, when I was with you before this, he knew that the Gu family's bodyguards were a force to be reckoned with, so he did not dare to lay a finger on me. But I don't know how he found out that you were returning to the country. He immediately got some people to take my child away. What am I going to do? What am I going to do about Union? Lin Che hastily said, don't be anxious, Feiren. Why don't you make a police report first? I'll immediately get someone to investigate where that jerk has taken Union. Mu Feiren continued crying, we can't do that. Although we know that the child isn't his, Union's family register lists him as her father too. So even though he took her away, the police will only deal with it as a family disagreement. There's no way that they will arrest him. Lin Che frowned. Don't worry, Feiren, since the child isn't his, he must have some other goal in mind in taking her away. But it's impossible for his goal to be the child. It must still be you, so he will contact you eventually to tell you his demands. Mu Feiren suppressed her emotions and let out a sound of affirmation. You're right, I suspect that he has taken the child back to C Nation. He has always wanted me to return to C Nation and continue acting and earning money for him, but I didn't want to go back. So now, he brought my child back and is holding her hostage to force me to comply. He's truly a bastard. Is he even a man? I'll help you ask around immediately. Lin Che hung up in a fury. Beside her, Gu Jingze had roughly heard what was going on. He then gazed at her calmly and asked, what happened? Lin Che said, do you know where Mo Ding lives in C Nation? He has taken Feiren's child away. Just then, Ji Yushinian froze before walking towards them. Mother, what do you mean? Has Union been kidnapped? Lin Che knew that Ji Yushinian and Union were childhood sweethearts and had a particularly good relationship. She quickly walked towards him and said, Nianian, don't worry. Everything will be fine. Behind them, Gu Jingze said, I'll ask someone to investigate. Lin Che looked up at him and nodded. Back in Seattle, Mu Feiren started calling Mo Ding. Over the years, Mo Ding had constantly caused trouble for Mu Feiren. However, Mu Feiren had basically managed to fend him off each time. Because with Lin Che around, the two of them were together and Mo Ding did not dare to do anything. However, now that Lin Che had gone back, Mo Ding immediately came looking for trouble again. Furthermore, he was even so arrogant as to call her immediately after kidnapping Union to assert his dominance. Mu Feiren paced back and forth until the dial tone ended. Mo Ding finally picked up the phone. Mu Feiren immediately shouted, Mo Ding, are you even human? Union is still so young. She's only 3 years old, but you actually took her away. How could you do this? Mo Ding sneered. What are you saying? You may have forgotten that the family register states that her name is Mo Zion. She's my daughter. Is there anything wrong with me taking away my own daughter? I missed her and brought her back to stay with me for a while. Can't I do that? She could only put Union's name on Mo Ding's family register because she did not want to hurt Union. Union's identity had to be kept a secret to prevent people from calling her an illegitimate child born out of rape. Back then, Mo Ding was not as bad as he was now. He still pretended to treat Mu Feiren well and had feelings for her. He hoped that Mu Feiren could return to the country. That was until that time when she unexpectedly heard Mo Ding tell her assistant of 10 years Gu Jingze that he simply wanted to use her. He hoped that Mu Feiren would not retire and instead help him continue making money. That way, the two of them would have good days ahead. Only then did Mu Feiren realize that Mo Ding had been deceiving her all along. He had conspired with her own assistant from the start. The two of them had conspired to use her as a money-making tool. But Mu Feiren had actually thought that she loved Mo Ding and that Mo Ding reciprocated her love. She had been living a lie. Mu Feiren said sternly into the phone, "Mo Ding, I won't let you off if you keep doing this. I'll report you to the police for kidnapping my daughter. And this daughter has nothing to do with you at all." Mo Ding scoffed, "Sure. Go ahead. I'm telling you that you still have some influence in the country. If you dare to report this to the police, I'll tell everyone how cheap a woman you were and how you committed adultery with someone else. You married me but still gave birth to this bastard child with another man. I will let everyone know what kind of slut you are and that you've given birth to a bastard child. When the time comes, I believe the story will be very exciting and that many people will pay attention to it too, right?" Mu Feiren had really never imagined that he could be this evil. "Mo Ding, you deserve to die. Ha 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 ha, this is what you owe me. Mu Feiren, I made you famous. I created you, but you made me a cuckold and you refused to tell me who exactly your lover is. Since you're protecting him like this, I'll show him how his woman sold herself to earn money for me. I won't return the child to you unless you earn 10 million in a year for me.